Then when life is done for me, let love be my legacy. Every time we sing that song, I get through all of it until I get to that last line. It chokes me up every time, because I do truly long for my life to be a legacy of love, more than just that feeling of love that I have for my family and my friends and for all of you. I long for my life to be a legacy of that transforming power of love that I believe to be the connecting force of the universe. The power of love to cast out fear and hate, the power of love to heal sickness and repair what is broken. I want the liberating power of this kind of universal love to be my life's legacy. And really, I only have a partial say in the legacy I leave. None of us is really in control of how we're remembered or what is carried forward from our lives. All we can do is live our lives in such a way as to point to that longing, to let our aspirations steer and guide our actions, to remember this aspiration in the moments when the ugliness of life would pull us from that unifying force of love. Legacy is a shared endeavor, each one reaching back to the ancestors to carry their legacy into the present and at the same time casting a vision forward, hoping ours will be carried by another into the future. Each of us hand over hand, heart reaching out to heart to weave a tapestry of interconnected legacy together, reaching back and reaching forward. It's tempting to want to attach our legacy to something tangible, something with the illusion of permanence. For decades before my grandma Connie died, she started putting little pieces of masking tape with names on her treasured things to be sure each one went to the right person. I also remember as a child her pulling out her big jewelry box, opening it up with that top that had the hinge, with the top layer kind of rising with that hinge. My cousins and I would sift through her costume jewelry, and Grandma would pass out her big gaudy rings and necklaces for us to take home. I still have some of those baubles, though I don't wear them. It's funny that the one thing that I treasure most, that reminds me most of my Grandma Connie, is this 9 by 13-inch metal baking dish with a cover. She had her name on that also with masking tape, in case she brought it to a neighbor for a meal or a family potluck. She wanted to get that pan back. She treasured it. It was her manicotti pan. And now my family uses it all the time to make lasagna, and when we do, she is with us. I remember the meals in my grandparents' finished basement with the second kitchen and the long table. I remember her voice, her laughter, her kisses, her hugs. Her legacy is her attention to her family, her honesty, her vulnerability, her love. A legacy can be packaged in tangible things, necklaces, pans, and family recipes. The item itself isn't important. It's the stories connected to those items and the values or insights we've gained through those experiences. It's the way we've been shaped by someone. Last Christmas Eve at my brother's house, my oldest asked my mom about the recipes for our annual Feast of the Seven Fishes, which I've talked to you about before. This is the traditional Italian meal we have every Christmas Eve. And Marty wanted to sit down with my mom to interview her about the tradition, where it came from, and its meaning to her over her life. He wants to make sure that this legacy, this tradition, lives on. He was also writing a paper for his anthropology class. Neither here nor there. We set up a time for the two of us to have dinner with my mom and my stepdad and record the conversation. And my mom got out a blue binder with all the family recipes in it, or some of them. And we started talking about the food and the tradition as my mom remembered it in her childhood. She talked about how her grandmother made this meal when she was little, and how she's never been able to get the calamari just right, just like Nana used to make. This traditional feast has changed over many years and our evolving family, and it was good to talk about that. But soon we started talking about a deeper conversation about our family history. And I asked questions too, unearthing some of the things that I wanted my child to know, and also probing into some of the things that I needed clarity on. Hard things, real things. We talked about mental illness and suicide, divorce and birth out of wedlock, the losses in our shared history. We talked about the ways my mom has survived, how she's been protected and shielded from tragic things. We talked about how secrets can fester and corrode. It helped me to understand my mom better. We talked for nearly 3 hours, and when we had said our goodbyes and were in the car, my mom called, and over the speaker in the car, she told us how much this evening meant to her and how she'll never forget it. And we felt the same way. We may not always want to pay attention to our legacy or think about what we'll leave behind when we're gone, but paying attention with courage and honesty may be one of the most loving things we can do. It can be daunting, even depressing, to think about the matter of wills and powers of attorney, and we don't want to think about planning for our care as we get older. But it's important to remember, and it's important to pass those stories and that legacy on. It's important to think about how our loved ones are going to be taken care of. More significant than the material gifts are the intangible legacy we leave, the stories of who we are and how we have been shaped, our hopes and visions for the world, the ways we have tried to serve our community, the times we've spoken a hard truth or raised our voices against something we knew was wrong. Preserving our legacy includes sharing our joys and triumphs, as well as honestly looking at the challenges we've faced and how we have overcome those challenges. It may feel self-indulgent or self-important to think about our legacy, but it's about honoring the collective impact we have on one another. Our narratives are never singular, always interwoven. Knowing the stories of our ancestors enriches our own. Think about the stories told in your family, about your grandparents, your great-grandparents. Think about all that you don't know, can never know. We don't want to get mired in the past, but can we hold on to the legacy of those that we've loved and lost? Can we help plant their dreams so they may sprout into something new and enduring? Our ancestors cannot dictate how their legacy grows, and neither can we, but we can tend the hopeful shoots of shared aspirations as they take root. We can nurture our visions and dreams, as well as the legacies of lives past, to cultivate a future of growth, of peace, of beauty, of love. Today we have much to be grateful for, much to celebrate. We have the generosity of this congregation and your dedication manifested in tremendous financial giving. We are grateful for a successful capital campaign. Through it, we will be able to continue to expand beauty in this space. We will continue to build our capacity to open our arms to a wide embrace, a more inclusive and safe space from which to honor life, to serve the world, and to nurture our spirits. We also have a shared story of a community of service, striving for justice and liberation for all beings. We share a courageous quest for truth and an honest search for meaning. We share a legacy of love to continue to grow. We can be grateful for the opportunity we have now as a congregation in this time of transition to be mindful as we look back and envision the future. For these things we can be grateful. For these and many reasons we are blessed. As we look to the future of our faith, let us be mindful of preserving the legacy of this faith community. May the faith we have in each other continue to grow. May we link our vision for what we could be to the stories of our ancestors who also carried a vision for us. May we continue to pay forward what we have received, hand over hand, story to story, love to love, weaving the warp and weft of the fabric of our lives into a world made whole. May it be so. May we make it so.